All right. So to start this ring project, the jeweled ring, yep, we'll get to the jewelry part. But first, I want to explain the core of the new tools we're using, which is the pipe, sweep, and loft tool. Now, these are basically the same thing with different variations. And how that works is you start from a sketch shape, which in this case, for making a ring, you draw a circle, you draw a ring. And what the pipe tool does is it generates a profile around that ring. So you have options of within the pipe tool, you have a triangle, square, circle, and you could also make the square and circle hollow. So these are really convenient tools if you're trying to make something like a chair frame or a bicycle frame, motorcycle frame, up to car frames, anything like that. Really handy tool for just using sketch lines and automatically generating profile shapes around that. So what that means is you've drawn a circle on one sketch plane, and let's just say for the sake of conversation or the sake of explanation, this is going to be the X and Z axes. So this was the XZ profile. So with that, the pipe tool will automatically generate, in this case, a circle around that, or square or triangle, and turn this shape into a toroid, into a donut shape. You can define the diameter of that circle, make it giant. You could even make that hollow and such. So obviously, in this case, we're making a complete circle, so it just turns into a torus. But if you were, say, making something that was instead like squiggly line or a fit point spline, that would then automatically generate a cylinder or tube in this case around that shape. So it's really a handy tool. Sweep, on the other hand, exact same thing. And we'll just in this case use the fit point spline example. Sweep, you draw your own profile. So in this case, let's say I draw a amorphous blob, and it meets at the end of that profile, at the end of that sketch line. It's going to take that shape and stretch it. So basically, it's like extrude, only if you were extruding a shape out of your Play-Doh fun extruder, then you twist it all around. That's what you get out of this. You're drawing the line that the extrusion twists and shapes and such. Now, granted, you make something too complex or too twisty, you're going to run into some errors because this all has to be mathematically generated. But that's basically the thing. It's going to take this entire shape, and you're going to end up with the same shape. Let's see if I can attempt to redraw that over here. Sure, whatever. It looks the same part. It's going to end up with that exact same thing, if I can draw properly, down at the end. Loft allows you to create more profiles in succession. So if I have my line here, I could start, say, a circle, drop cap on the floor, so I draw all over my hand, end with a rectangle. It's going to morph as it sweeps down the line. It's going to morph from circle to rectangle. So you're going to start with a round shape. It's going to end with an angular shape in between. But you can keep adding if you wanted to. So you could have it start at a circle. Maybe it then becomes a much larger circle or oval shape, and it's going to morph between those. Now, this is just drawing on a single line. You can do the same thing. This is how, say, like if you were so inclined to make like a boat hull. Perfect for something like that because you start with, say, just a point. You end with what will be a U. You would have multiple ribs in between, and it would transition between all of those to create your boat shape. So that's how you could use these different ones. Or, of course, the same thing. I don't know, airplane, whatever. You get the idea of just more complex, not necessarily tubular shape, but kind of sort of. So those are the basics between those three different ones. And how we're going to be using them is to create, in our example case, a ring or bracelet, something like that. But I'll show you different ways that you could morph those around. All right, so let's jump over to Fusion and we can look at some examples. Uh-oh, did I just jam up? There we go. All right. So might have too many things going. Let me close a couple of things since I'm going to be making it too much. Okay. So let's start a new one here, and I'll just make a few components real quick just to walk you through the difference. Okay. So let's make a pipe tool. Oh, actually, hang on. Let me do the whole thing, and then also don't forget to save. Example in class pipe sweep loft. Always a variety use. All right. So first, let's just go ahead and make a standard standard shape. So something like this would be either like a circle. I don't know. Sure, 150. That's a giant ring. Or we'll also do something like using a fit point spline to show you the same deal. Okay. Finish sketch. All right. So this sketch is out on my main project, and I added components that I can isolate these. So, all right, let's activate the pipe tool and show you what this does. So pipe tool up here, like anything, creates a solid pipe around a path. Activate the pipe tool, select the circle, and you can define how thick it is. You can also define the length of the shape, meaning distance goes from 0 to 1, 0 being the starting point, 1 being the end point. Well, start to finish. On a circle, yeah, it still has a starting end point. It's just how it mathematically defines. So say like distance would be 0.5, and it only creates half a circle. So if you somehow wanted to incorporate something like that, great. Go back to 1. You can go to triangle. You can see that just makes like a square donut, or sorry, that's a square, or triangle. Now, seems kind of silly to use this. This is actually a really convenient way of creating like paths that you could then like cut away and create like knurling patterns and your own screw threads and things like that. That's actually how you would use this. So those are the kind of general shapes. Like I said, the same thing also. You can also use the pipe tool on a fit point spline. And let's say thickness would be 10. Oh, apparently it should be thicker. There we go. And again, you can see thickness there. Let's make it more of, geez, there. Now this does operate off of like offset mathematics. So if you make this too big, errors out because it can no longer hold its shape. But you can make this hollow. So if you wanted to make this section thickness, meaning like how thick the walls are, I don't know, 10. So you can either design your own custom macaroni or, pipes for like a frame or something. Cool. There you go. Moving on to the sweep. We'll hide the pipe tools. So the sweep, you create your own profile. So you would need to create a sketch. So a couple of tricks to doing that. If you're going to be making your own profile on the ring, no big deal. Let's create a sketch. Let's say it does need to be perpendicular to the line. So since I was working on the XZ axis, let's work on the YZ axis. Perpendicular, so I'm looking at the side. Now the trick is I need to create it on the edge of this circle. So go find me the corner of a circle. Easiest way to do this would simply be to just sketch up top here. So what you can do is just use the snap tools. So if I create like a center point circle or ellipse or something like that, but just zoom in, it's going to snap to the end of that. And if it doesn't, what you can do is create a point, or better yet, project. Use the project tool, and you can select sketch features. So now when I hit that, now I see that actually created an endpoint for me. It just makes it a little bit easier. So with that, Let's make, say, an oval, define it. Okay. And I don't know, let's draw some circles along the edge here. Repeat, repeat. I don't know, 2. Cool. I will mirror those 2 across that center line. There we go. Finish sketch. Now, when I go to the sweep tool, I'm going to create, right under revolve sweep. I select my profile, which is now this oval with these notches cut out. And my path is that circle. And I have successfully made a tire. Hooray. Tire ring it is. But some cool stuff you can do with sweep. Let me go back in and edit the feature. You have an option to twist. Now, because we're making this a ring, it needs to be in increments of 360 degrees. So let's say, because it's got to come back around to its original meeting point. So I can twist this, in this case, 360. I get 1 twist. Oops. Weird, interesting shape. Let's do some more. Let's jump that up to 720. Oops, I keep hitting enter. Keep doing increments of 360. You can start getting some really funky shapes really quickly. So an interesting way of creating, maybe not necessarily for a ring, wouldn't exactly be the most comfortable thing, but pretty cool bracelets or necklaces or something. Granted, better make it big enough to where it doesn't just turn into like a weird collar. But anyway, same thing goes for creating a sweep on that profile. However, how do I get a profile to match the end of wherever the heck that line starts or stops? Well, easy way to do that would be use a construction plane that it ends on a path. So there is literally plane on a path. That line is our path. Select that tool, and since I already had that line selected, instantly created a sketch perpendicular to that path, but as I move it along, it actually moves along with the path. But since distances in this case are, like I said, with the sweep tool, between 0 and 1, if I enter a value of 0, it snaps it all the way to the end there. If I select 1, snaps it all the way to the other end. So in this case, doesn't matter which one I use. We'll use the end path at this point. Go over here, select create a sketch on that profile or on that plane I just created. And I don't know, let's make a center point rectangle. Good Lord, where'd my line go? Ah, there we are. Lost where I was. I don't know. Sure. 20 by 90. Sure. Doesn't matter. Okay. Finish sketch. Now do the same. Sweep that profile onto that path. And you can create some very quickly create some interesting shapes. Now, because this doesn't start and stop at the same place, my twist angle could be whatever I please. So if I want to make it 122, I don't know, does some weird stuff, it already errored out because it is a larger shape and it's going to self-intersect. So I probably can't do too much. Let's try 90. All right. Geez, 45. There we go. Because this is so wide, it self-intersects. Now, if I made this more of like something more circular like the other one I did, you could probably get a lot more out of this. But really neat way to manipulate that one tool. Okay. Last one, Loft. Same deal, same deal. Now, what I just showed you, create a sketch, perpendicular. Oops. Nope. I need to redefine that sketch plane. I got the wrong one. Bring the origin back up. Right there. Okay. There we go. So same deal. Let's use project again to borrow the geometry of that circle. Hit OK. Now I've got my points on that plane. Cool. So this time, let's go ahead and do the Rectangle, I don't know, sure. 30 by 6 apparently. Okay. Down here, let's use an oval. Let's say 20. Yep, by what is going on here? What happened to my oval? That just went completely screwy. Weird. Don't know what happened there. Do that again. Oval shape, right at the end. Draw, 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 up and up and up. Whatever, doesn't matter. Okay. Two different profiles. Finish sketch. This time we go to Loft. Oh, not cylinder. Loft. Under Create, Loft. And in this case, we only have two different profiles. If you have multiples, you have to select them in order. You cannot jump around because it's transitioning from one to the next to the next. So you have to select them in order. In this case, we just have two profiles. So this will cause an error right now because I'm going to select one, the rectangle, second profile, the oval, because it's trying to draw directly between them. Second thing I need to do is select a guide. So I'll use the rail, centerline rail. That allows me to create my path. There we go. So now I've made half because it's just going around from there, but you can see how it transitions from rectangle to oval. Neat. Hit OK. And then you would just mirror this. Select mirror. Right there, mirror plane is the plane there. Let it join together. Bam. Instant morphing. So this is really convenient if you want to build exactly like I showed you, just different profile, especially like, oops, from here. There you go. So same deal for creating on a path. Now, granted, if you could make this just a straight up and down thing, but if you wanted to make this specifically along a path, like I just showed you, use the construction plane along path. Select there. Let's say the first one is at 0. Okay. Right click to repeat. That one will, the other one we'll put at 1 just to make the sketches at 2 separate sides. All right. Create a sketch over here on that path. We'll do the same again. Rectangle, sure. Let's not make it quite as large this time. Great. Finish sketch. It is really easy to get lost in your plane here, so be careful. Select create sketch. Now on the other one, reorient to there. We'll just use circle. Make it a big old circle. Great. Finish sketch. All right. Loft tool. Profiles. 1 and 2. Now it's going to try and draw it directly between. But again, we want to create a path or use a path. So under here where it says guide type, go to center line, select it. Where it is. There you are. Now it snaps to my squiggly line. Also very, very convenient for making like handles on like cups and vessels and stuff like that. Really neat way of making stuff. There you go. A couple of different ways of using the exact same tools. In our case, we're going to be making a ring, that sort. So, neato on that. Let's make a couple of quick jewels. So I've already gotten this one built up. I'll create some new components here. This one will be the in class examples. All right. So to create these, I'm going to make a couple. So first, we're going to create a sketch. And what we're going to do is use what we haven't used before is the Polygon tool. And that's just it. It literally makes multi-sided polygons. Now, you have a couple different options here. You have circumscribed, inscribed, and edge polygon. Circumscribed and inscribed simply means these are based on drawing a circle. Circumscribed simply means that the polygon is generated on the outside of the circle. Inscribed is generated on the inside of the circle. That's really it. The edge polygon is if you want to draw the edges individually. In this case, we don't want to bother with that. So we'll just go with the first one, circumscribed. I'll draw this straight in the center line or in the center point. Now, when you are making this, do not hit enter to change over. You cannot go back and modify the number of sides. You can go back and modify how big it is, the diameter, but you cannot go back and modify the number of sides. You will have to redraw it. Not a big deal. It's just an irritating thing that they haven't solved yet. So let's make this slightly more reasonably sized this time. We'll say 10 millimeters. To get to the other, press tab. Do not press enter. Do not click your mouse. Press tab, and you can change over to how many sides you want. In this case, use even numbers. I recommend like 10, excuse me. Jeez. I recommend at least 10, maybe 12, something like that. Do not worry about if it's not oriented straight. We're going to just kind of let that go for now. There we are. Polygon done. 10-sided, which would be a decagon. But in order to align this, you do want to have at least the sides straight up and down, stuff like that. Just it gets easier to work with. So to do that, we're going to use one of the constraints, just the horizontal vertical constraint. Select that and pick whichever one is closest to being either horizontal or vertical. It just snaps it to orientation. That's all. That's it. Finish sketch. From here, we're going to do 3 different extrusions. We're going to hit extrude. The first one, we'll do like 1 millimeter. Or even half, something like that. That's fine. We'll say 1. Keep it whole numbers. All right. Repeat. Right-click to repeat. Selecting the top, not the sketch, the top that you just created, the plane you just created. I don't know, let's go up to like 5. But like I said, you want to put an angle on this. I'm going to be using 42 degrees because I read somewhere that's a standard one. You can look into jewel cutting, make up your own, or look up some actual ones if you want to reference some real ones. But you want this angle to go inward, so negative 42. There we go. Rotate under, orbit under, do the same, repeat extrude, down, I don't know, let's say 10 millimeters this time. Again, angle is negative 42. Now, if you make this too small, you'll this won't work right. Also, you cannot make this come to a point yet. You need this to be a flat top and bottom. You could make these both the same size if you want to make it a symmetrical jewel. In this case, I'm just doing it this way. That's all. Let it join, operation join, you're all set. Still all one single body. Why is it creating it up there forward? I forgot to activate that component. Well, poop. I should have had the in-class examples going, so let me drag that down. There we go. Whoopsie-daisy. Okay. Should have been working on this component. All right, we'll say simple jewel. Okay. So right now, it's just straight up and down. I want to cut those facets into it. To do that, I'm going to use a construction plane through 3 points. I'm going to start at the top. It has to be 2 points at the top, 1 in the middle. So 1, skip a line, 2, go down to the bottom, skip that one. See how now it's drawing a plane through and making this triangle? Perfect. Do the same at the bottom. Doesn't matter which ones you use. 1, skip 1, 2, the one you skipped, all the way at the top. Going to make that little sliver. Great. Now, the tool we're going to use next is split body. As it says here, it simply chops up an existing body using whatever. In this case, we're using these planes. Select that tool. The body to split is the whole jewel. Splitting tools, going to be that. We can actually do both of these at one go if we make both of these. Unless it doesn't let us do it. So fine. We'll just do one at a time. Okay. So what that did is now it added us another one, another body here. Hide that, and that just chopped off that little face. Repeat the body split, the object, the whole jewel, that plane, chop it off. Made another little sliver? Great. Let's hide those construction planes. All right, there we go. I've got that one extra facet now. So now we're going to use the pattern tool, circle pattern, like we cut our drainage holes in the vessel, easy peasy. In this case, go to object type, faces, select that one and that one, the ones we cut. Great. Axis, this is why it's helpful to create this smack in the middle of the work plane, so you can just use the built-in XYZ origin planes. Draw a circle. All right. So this is where it gets important to remember how many sides you made. If it's a 10-sided polygon, make instances of that. So in this case, if I say how many? 5, create a pretty simple jewel there. Turns the top into a pentagon, same with the bottom. Neat. If you want to finish this out, now you could go and extrude the bottom down a little bit. Let's enter in our -42, and that's going to extend it down and brings it to a point. Cool. So that's a really simple jewel. Let's make a slightly more complex one. Same deal, sketch, polygon. I'm going to do the exact same thing, right in the center. What was that, like 10? Tab over, I want 10 sides. Keep it easy. There we go. I should have just used the original sketch. Constraint, horizontal, vertical. There we are. Finish sketch. That's it. Just that polygon. This time, same. Extrude. Go up 1. Repeat extrude. Let's go up 5 this time. And negative, I don't know, let's say 35. 37. Whatever. Join. I'm going to repeat the exact same thing on the bottom, so go down 5. In this case, I'm going to do the -35 again. Or this time, I'm going to do 30. No, I said 37. There we are. Okay. Exact same thing. And all I changed was the angle just because I felt like it. No change there at all. Construction plane. Plane through 3 points. Start at the top. 1, 2, 3 toward the center. Oh, I got the construction planes hidden. There we go. Repeat it. Orbit under. 1, 2, 3. All right. Now let's go to split body. Split the jewel. Splitting tool is one of the construction planes. Chops off, add some bodies. Hide that one. Repeat. Jewel. Splitting tool, construction plane. Chop that off. Oop, left with just a little bit. Hide the bodies. All right. Let's hide those construction planes now. Cool. Circle pattern to repeat that facet. Selecting faces. That face. That face. That face. Sorry. That's the producers. Now this time, instead of 5, because I made 10 sides, I can actually bump this up to 10 instances. And what that looks crazy complex right now, but this will allow me to make fancier. Just because they overlap and such like that. So just doing the exact same thing, just doubling the amount of faces, so long as the doubling matches the number of faces you made for your polygon. So if you made a 10-sided polygon, you can bump this up to either 5 or 10, as long as it's evenly divisible. Make it 12, 6 faces, or 6 instances, or 12 instances. 14, 7 or 14. You get the idea. As long as your faces, as long as you can divide that by a whole number, you're good. But keep it a even number. 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. You get the idea. Don't go odd, because you get weird, or you get incomplete results. So there you go. A couple of different ways you can make some neat jewels. One quick thing I did when I made that long one. What was it? Fancy jewel. Let me copy and paste to make a copy of that one. Okay. And this one we'll say long jewel. So in this case, I can grab that one and we'll use a scale tool, non-uniform, and I'm literally just going to stretch it. There you go. I don't know, 2. That works. Easy way to do that. Oops. I should have copy and paste that one again. There we go. Once more plus scale, non-uniform. 2 long jewel, or the other one that I did, split long jewel. That one I split body of that using the origin plane. And if you can't get in there to grab it, hide the thing for a second, then unhide. So I literally just chop the thing in half, take one of the halves, and just move it a little bit. So I don't know. There you go. 10mm move. And then just use and extrude that one face to the other. So extend type to object, snap over there, bam. Make it a long jewel. They're not perfect. Again, this isn't a jewelry class. If you want to get into it, you totally can. But those are the simple ways to do that. So take one of those, jam it onto your ring, and away you go. So I'm going to pause there. I'll show you in a minute how to actually create a ring, make a fitting stuff, basic fitting, stuff like that. We'll go from there. But those are some simple ways to make jewels. Those are simple ways to use the pipe, sweep, or loft tool to make some basic ring shapes. We'll come back in a second, go from there. Okay, so sorry, I wasn't sure if I actually started the recording or not again. All right, so let's finish this up. We got some couple of jewels to pick from, or at least some ideas. This kind of what looks more like a snack pack than it does a jewel, but whatever, you get the idea. Let's make a quick ring to build this into. So I'm gonna start a quick new project, and I'm gonna actually import some of those jewels, so I don't have to start over every single time. Let's save. Example. In class ring and jewel. Okay, cool. So just for a quick reference, we saw how you can make like the pipe and sweep. I'm just going to knock out a quick or pipe, sweep, and loft. I'm going to knock out first just a quick example of using the pipe tool, and we can play beyond that. But let's start by starting with a sketch. What do you know? All right, so let's get a quick reference. I thought I had a thing up here, so let's pretend I remember how big my finger is. So I don't know. Let's start with a circle, center point circle, smack in the middle of
17.7 is a size 7 ring.
Okay, we'll go. What'd you say?
17.7.
17.7. Thank you very much. Nope, not 47,
Yeah,
just 7.
Just looked it up.
I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, let's make it slightly realistic here. Okay, looks tiny, but that's all right. Now it's bigger. All right. That's all I need. That's it. I just need a circle for my ring. Okay, finish sketch. Now what I need to do is, that's going to be my reference. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and label that as ring size. Because with parametric modeling, if I make these separately and build off of each one, if I need to change the ring size, if I go back and alter that original sketch, everything else should recalculate appropriately. So I'm going to start another sketch. Oops, I already hit. But I want to make sure to use the perpendicular plane. I want to use the XZ plane, or sorry, the YZ plane. So we're perpendicular there. We're on the left. I'm going to use project. Oops, I am not currently in that. There we are. So go to project, or just press P on your keyboard, project, and I'm going to copy that circle as a flat line so it instantly snags those top and bottom points. Cool. Now, to make sure that I am going to maintain the ring size, I really need to, if I was using a sweep or a pipe tool, or sorry, a sweep or a loft tool, I do want to make sure to create that circle on the outside. So the pipe tool can do the same thing, but since I'm trying to maintain the outside of or the inside diameter of this ring, I'm going to basically do the same thing, but with a sweep. So I'm going to start with a 2-point circle, and I don't know, let's make those 2mm circles. All right. So same deal. It's just profile sitting on the outside. Finish sketch. That's it. So in this case, I'm going to, where I could have just used pipe to select that circle. Problem is to see what happens if I use a pipe tool. Let's say that's 2 millimeters wide. That pipe tool goes off in all directions. So it actually would shrink the inside diameter of the ring. So if you just want to knock out a ring, fine. You could always just use a scale tool to scale it up later. You'll get the same result. But if you're trying to make this specific, instead of use the pipe tool, use the sweep tool, and you could just create your profile just on the outside of that ring. So my profile is just that circle. The path is that ring I just created. I get the exact same result, just that it's now going to maintain that inside circle, that inside diameter. That's it. No big. Okay. But like I said, a simple ring, a simple torus, just a simple circle, that ain't going to do it. So we need to make this more complex. So I'm going to make multiples of this exact circle here. But I'm not just going to leave it as it is. So let's select there and copy paste. Then copy paste. There we go. Now what I want to do actually is, with a couple iterations, is rotate them slightly back and forth. So how I'm going to do that though is, see when I chose a copy paste, copy move, it made the center rotation down here at the bottom. That's going to mess me up. So what I need to do is rotate it around the center point. So if I go in my toolbox, go to set pivot, select the center there, select done, check there. Now, when I rotate this copy, it's rotating it from the center, you see? 15 degrees works pretty well. Okay. There we go. Copy, paste, do it again. I'm going to do this a couple of times. I don't know why it is. Come on. All right, fine. We'll use the copy move. I don't know why it sometimes does that. There we go. Let's create copy. There's a checkbox at the bottom of the move toolbox. That's exact same thing. This time it actually left it snapped in the center, so that's cool. So rotating it that way, 15 degrees. And let's do a couple more. I'm going to rotate it the other way. Use the move tool this time. Seems like the move tool automatically leaves the center point there, so cool. Only this time it's not letting me make copies. What the heck? There we go. Create copy. Let's rotate it the other direction this time, 15 degrees. And one more time. Again, why does it default to that? Create copy. Swear sometimes just the tediousness of Fusion is just really irritating. Okay. And can't really see what I'm doing very clearly, so let me change the style to hidden edges. Why isn't it showing it? Oh, because there's no edge, it's just a circle. See how I've made this? I mean, of course, with the automatic color, it just looks like it's made of a bunch of hot dog links, so that's awesome. But also, I'm looking at this like, you know what? 2 millimeters is kind of thick. It does look like it's made out of hot dogs or so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, edit the original sketch. Let's change the diameter of that original circle. Not move. Just change the diameter of the circle. Let's say 1.5. Now, because the starting point was linked to the edge of that profile, the edge of that projection, when I hit finish sketch, recalculates, nothing moved. It just shrank the circle. So cool. Yeah, it's a little bit better defined now. You can even shrink that back down to like 1 or something like that. Too fine, and even that printer isn't going to hack it anymore. I did see someone make an example of a ring like this, but they wanted to have round or defined edges instead of it being all like funky like this. So let's make 2 more copies of that original circle. And this time, instead, I'm going, why does it keep defaulting to faces? I'm going to, this time, move it out a little bit. There we go. No. I really wish the copy and paste was a little bit more intuitive. There we are. Repeat one last time. Yes, create a copy. Good gravy. Okay. So now I just have this whole gaggle of circles, but you can see how I've made a pretty complex shape just by making copies and literally just rotating them slightly. Now, obviously, I do need to make sure to join all these together. So let's use the combine tool, pick one, and then just select all the others. Link together. There we go. Now it's my ring. I'm sorry. It's not even a good pun. It's just wordplay at best. Really just lazy. All right. So now that it's a lot more visually complicated, let's just switch that back. There we go. Visible edges only. So cool. Yeah. Granted, that color is still freaking me out. It just looks like it's a hot dog ring, but hey, whatever. Make it a. Oh God, I did make a glizzy ring last semester. I'll have to bring that model over. All right. Well, every good hot dog ring requires a pretty jewel. So what we can actually do, let's save that, and I'll just say it's combined. I haven't used this tool before, but insert a component. You can insert components from other projects. So we click there, and I go into my jewel designs. And unfortunately, I can't just isolate components from there because it'll bring like the whole freaking thing over as a nested component. So cool. All right. Now I just have this whole gaggle and obviously giant jewel in comparison. I'm going to resize. Hit OK. Now, one important thing is if you intend to make changes, you see how as I've brought this in, look at the component here. It has this little chain link symbol on there. That means that I can't really make changes to this, or if I do, it makes changes to everything. So right click on that and just break link. Now I can mess with it as I need to. All right, cool. So now I can just pick and choose any of the stuff that I just dropped in. So I liked that kind of wide split oval one there. So let's move that into position. Or better yet, let's scale it down first. So let's go to modify and scale. Let's just shrink this thing. I do want a point, and of course I have, there we go. Where is my center point? Ugh. Make it uniform, and of course there's no reference point, so whatever. All right, I don't know. Probably like a quarter of the size. Even smaller, 0.2. 0.1. 5? Sure. Okay, that works. Okay. Now that shrank that one. That did not shrink all the other ones. It's just that one that I shrunk. Cool. Oops. So let's now move that into position. Use the move tool. I definitely recommend using the arrow keys. Don't use the free transform because it gets real funky, as in you kind of lose where you were working. Let's rotate that 90 degrees. There we go. And I'm just kind of trying to move this over. Now, of course, the problem is since I don't have a center point on this, it makes it more difficult for me to position. But since the snap is 1 millimeter snap and it looks like one is too much, the other is too little, well, I'll split the difference, 3.5. That actually looks pretty well on par. Okay, cool. Oops, forgot to move it back. Move it again. Same problem. Negative 3.5. There we go. That looks about right. Cool. So at least if you use the arrow keys, at least it's using standard increments and such. You don't end up with a bunch of like guesswork and such. You can snap it a little bit easier. Now, granted, if I had like a center point on this, I could have used it. It would have been a little bit easier, but there we go. All right. So the last thing on this would be, well, there's a couple things, but the one other thing you need to model is some kind of setting. So I showed you those examples. Oops, and I closed it. But basically we're just going to kind of make like some reference, excuse me, some sort of like, think of it as like a crown or something. It just looks like it snaps around. And that can be really basically anything. Now, the problem with what I've done here is since I have this stretch jewel, I can't just make it a circle. So honestly, I think I'm gonna hide that one and I'm gonna go back and use the fancier or the oh my. I'm gonna go back and actually move over the yeah, let's use that one instead, because that way I can just use it as a circle. So let's bring up the bodies, 10-sided jewel, neato. There's also see how that's all centered and everything. Makes everything so much easier to deal with. So let me just scale this back down where I had it before, or where I had the other one. All right, using that one, my point. See, I can use the origin point since I built it around the origin. And what was that, 0.15, something like that? Yeah, there we go. Makes it so much. Build everything around the origin point if you can. Build it straight up and down on the major axes. Makes everything so much easier to deal with. All right, let's move this thing in position. Ugh, just that. Move that. Now, fortunately, it's already centered and I don't have to deal with it, but makes things a little bit easier to deal with. All right. Right about there. Cool. Much easier to deal with now. Okay. So now to create a setting of some degree, I'm just gonna kind of fudge it because this, like I said, is not a jewelry class. You can look at rings, get an idea if you want, but in this case, what we want is just something that kind of reaches up around and just kind of primps just above the lip of the jewel. But we can make that way easier than it sounds. So, standard procedure, let's start a sketch. Front plane or the side, doesn't matter if we're working right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide my ring and I'm going to make a projection of the jewel, the whole body. Hit okay. Let's hide all of that. So now I'm just left with that. Perfect. So much easier to deal with this way. So what I can do is literally just use that. Let's make this an offset. Use the offset tool. Let's make it slightly bigger. So I don't know what's that. Let's make it something net even. So 0.3. Oops. Slightly bigger. Cool. Okay. And I need to cut this off. So let's just draw something slightly above where it cuts off. Straight across. Cool. Anything above that, I don't need. And I can probably leave all of that right where it is. So let's finish sketch. And what we're going to do, unhide that jewel again. And I am going to use a revolve tool, just like we did to make the revolve vessel. And I'm going to use that profile, spin it around the z-axis. Now, you get an error because I had the whole thing, unlike when we made the revolve vessel, we only had half of the profile. This time we have the entire cross section. So all I got to do is instead of a full 360 revolve, just do a 180. Excuse me. And Y is not showing. Profile revolves around the axis. Try moving the profile. Yeah, it's fine. What's the problem here? Fine. Well, I guess it's not going to let me do that. Fine. So I just need to chop that up a little bit more. So all that means is put another line, smack in the middle, divide it. Cool. There we go. So see, now I can just isolate just that circle or just that partial. Cool. All right. Now use the revolve tool. That partial piece revolved around the z-axis. Now this makes for like a weird circle here. Now what I can do is two things. I can either now make a sketch, extrude out and make cuts and repeat those cuts, or what I can do is make just a partial selection here and make multiples of that. Let's make it easier on ourselves. Let's do a full 360. Okay. That's what's going to become my setting. And then one more sketch straight on. And we'll just do something like a ellipse right smack in the middle. Is it not going to let me? grab that? No, it's not because it's a jerk. Project again. Fine, fine, fine. I'm just doing something that just kind of, like I said, looks kind of sort of the part. This is not a jewelry class. We're just kind of making it work. Cool. Now you see how I made that oval right there? Finish sketch. I'm just going to extrude that forward, and it makes a cut. And I might as well go ahead and make some adjustments here. So let's say make a fillet on that face. I don't know, 1 millimeter too much? Yeah. 0.2. Still slightly too much. 0.1. There we go. I'm just making that a little bit more rounded. You can probably use a chamfer as well. Hit OK. And now let's make more of that exact thing. So I'm just making a simple feature, repeating that feature. Let's try to use the feature tool. It should grab all of that. There we go. Now, around the axis, which is the z-axis, 10 is obviously too many, but it's a 10-sided polygon, so let's make it 5. Hit OK. Cool. Now when I unhide the jewel, sort of kind of a beefy setting, but yeah, it's just something that shows out the jewel. It kind of crimps around. Really super simple. I like making them that way. That makes it pretty easy to deal with. Setting. Cool. Unhide the ring. And we just got to make sure that joins in. If it doesn't quite join or whatever, what we can do, one last thing on here, just simply extrude the bottom of this ring, or that ring setting, and just stretch it down. Now, you might end up with some weird connection here. So, I don't know, let's try tapering it in. Negative 25? A little more? 30? Just trying to make it look like it kind of fits a little bit better. That's all. This is very much a kind of just playing with the tools and making something that looks kind of the part. Cool. All right. That doesn't look terrible. So obviously we're going to join this, and it did in fact automatically combine, because when I edit feature, it automatically went to operation join. Luckily, it did not cut, so we're good there. Hit OK. And the last thing would just be, let's save this setting. Last thing would throw an appearance on. Oh, I got to shift over to color mode. Let's find some appearances. I don't know. Fusion appearances. Metal, why not? Stadium. Because it's satisfying to say, at least I am easily entertained by that. Why isn't it applying? What's the problem, buddy? What? By component or by project? Oh, there we go. It was just lagging really badly for whatever reason. Don't know. And then there's no jewel. There's no like actual like stuff like that. There's stone. So I don't know, unless you want a granite bit there. But what I often do is like you could just paint it, whatever. Heck, you could make a golden jewel. Who cares? Glass is here. That works nicely. But there's not all the colors. But I don't know. There you go. Red glass. Again, if you have the little arrow next to this, you just got to download it. You just hit that and it'll download. So drag that over to the jewel. Bam. There we go. So why does it keep shifting back to auto color? Weird. So there you go. Now, again, I use the pipe tool to make a whole mess of stuff. You can use whatever you want. The jewel goes together a lot faster than it seems. It's the main thing is you got to use that plane, the construction plane, through 3 points. Split the body, chop off that face, hide that face or delete it. I just hide it. Sometimes deleting for some reason causes weird errors. Use a circle pattern tool to repeat that in a circle. Just remember, and I'll write this in the notes on here, make your jewel, the polygon, in even increments. So it could either be 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, anything more than that, you're probably getting like really detailed, but whatever. And then when you make the number of faces, either do that in increments of either half the number of faces or as many number of faces. Half the number of faces, you get a bit of a slightly simpler jewel. As many faces, you get a more complex one. There we go. So half as many faces, that was a 10-sided polygon. Half makes simple jewel. 10-sided polygon with 10 faces, 10 face repeating makes a slightly fancier one. That's it. So play around with this, make whatever you want. The main things, again, just needs to be the right size, or it needs to be wearable technically. We'll go over later of different ways. Like I used the Loft tool to create this simple bracer, which don't know if I could even get my hand through it. Realistically, you probably have to chop this in half and print it in 2 sections and then put magnets in it or something. But hey, it's got a poorly fitted jewel in there, and I used emboss to create some ridges and such. There's actually even a leather tool or a leather appearance. So hey, red leather, yellow leather. Play around with it, whatever you want to make. The whole goal of this project is you're making something wearable. The jewelry thing, the jewels, so that we can use the resin printers to play with those. So we're going to go over some different versions of this next class. I wanted to get everybody to see what we're doing with all of this, spend a little more time tonight getting some of the working with everybody. So we'll go from there, but play around with it, see what comes of it, and we will work together to make it a more complete piece. Good luck, have fun, hopefully.